Good morning, Acharya ji.
Hari Om.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
So we are on the 45th verse, right? So we will chant. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Sorry, this is Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Adrishta Purvam Rishitosmi Drishtva.
Adrishta Purvam Rishitosmi Drishtva.
Bhayena cha pravyathitam mano me.
Bhayena cha pravittam mano me.
Tadeva me darshaya deva rupam.
Tadeva me darshaya deva rupam.
Prasida devesha jagannivasa.
Prasida Devesha Jagannivasa.
So Arjuna continues with what he is saying. He says, Drishtva Adrishta Purvam. So Drishtva Purvam Adrishta. Having seen something, Drishtva, which is Purvam Adrishta, which I have not seen before. Purvam, before, Adrishta, which I have not seen before. What is my state of mind? Harshitaha Asmi. I am very, very happy. I am elated. At the same time, Pravyathitam Bhayena cha. My mind is filled with fear. Bhayena Pravyathitam. And therefore, O Krishna, what should you do? Tadeva Rupam Me Darshaya. Hey Krishna, please give me Tadeva Rupam. Tadeva Rupam is what? The Krishna who is my friend. Or at the most, the Krishna who is Ekarupa Ishvara. Please come back to that form. So Arjuna is saying that I can't take the pressure of seeing this Vishwarupa of yours because the Divya Chakshu which you gave me, that was very, very limited in scope and I am not able to appreciate without being afraid. And therefore, please come back to your single form. So, an idea is being conveyed that graduating from Ekarupa Ishvara to Virat Ishvara to Anekarupa Ishvara is not very easy because you have to get rid of so many of your fears and your dislikes, and therefore you have to remain in Ekarupa Ishvara for a sufficiently long amount of time. And from there you can extract one more idea. Just as you have to remain in Ekarupa Ishvara for a long time before you can come to Vishwarupa Ishvara, you have to remain in Vishwarupa Ishvara also for a long time before you can come to Arupa, formless Ishvara. So he says, Devesha, Ishaha Devaha, or Lord of all the Devas, who is what? Jagan Nivasaha, who is the abode of the universe, Prasida. Please be gracious. And how will you show your grace? By removing this frightening form and coming back to the form which I am familiar with. So now the next verse we will go to. Please unmute yourself. Verse number 46. Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam.
Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam.
इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव
इच्छामि
इच्छामि
त्वां
इच्छामि त्वां
द्रष्टुमहंतथैव
द्रष्टुमहं तथैव
येनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन
येनैव
येनैव
रूपेण
रूपेण
चतुर्भुजेन
चतुर्भुजेन
सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते
सहस्रबाहो
सहस्रबाहो
भव
भव
विश्वमूर्ते
विश्वमूर्ते.
So here Arjuna is the last verse of Arjuna. So he is concluding his application to Krishna, to his prayer to Krishna. So he has passed through three stages of appreciating the Vishwarupa Ishvara. We must remember those three stages which has come in last few verses. First was wonder, Ascharyam. Then the Ascharyam turned into fear, Bhayam, because he was seeing that Vishwarupa Ishvara is also destroying. And having understood that destruction also is part of his nature, but he has not overcome the fear and he has moved into a stage of bhakti. Right? So here, having understood, having become afraid of, and having appreciated, and now he has got bhakti. So Arjuna says, Hey Krishna, please come back to your own Ekarupa, which I am familiar with. So he says, Tvam aham drushtum ichchami. I would like to see you. Tena eva rupena, in that old form of yours, which I am familiar with. Okay. And what is that form? Kiritanam. Kiritinam, there is a crown. Gadinam, there is the mace, the gadha. And chakrahastam, there is a chakra in the hand. And chaturbhujena, your four hands. Earlier on it was sahasrabaho, thousand-armed one. Anekahastam. Now it is chaturbhujena. Please come back to your what you call form with four hands. So immediately a question should come up. What is that? You have to follow every word carefully. Chaturbhujena, right? Krishna, Manushya form is the friend of Arjuna's. Avatara form. Avatara form is two arms. How come Chaturbhujena? What would be? He's saying, please come back to your own form, which I have been seeing throughout my life. That old form is avatar. Avatar is of Manushya form, two armed only. So various commentators give various ideas. I'll give a couple of them. You can take whichever one. The first one is because of the strain of the Vishwarupa Darshanam, Arjuna's mind is a bit, confused. So he thinks, four arms Krishna has. Actually, Krishna has only two arms because he's Manushya. And some other commentator says that, okay, Arjuna has, because of the Vishwarupa Darshanam and because of the, showing Arjuna that I am indeed the Lord, Arjuna now accepts that Krishna is the avatar of Lord Vishnu. And when you say Chaturbhuja, how many arms does Lord Vishnu have? Four arms, right? So the two-armed one is the friend, but now that he is talking in bhakti, he is very, very devout. He is considering that Krishna is Lord Vishnu's avatar with four arms. Okay. And the chakra, because the chakra is also said. The chakra is what chakra is that?
Sudarshana
Sudarshana chakra. What does it do?
It can decapitate.
and then come back to Krishna again.
Okay.
Can destroy the ego.
It destroys the evil.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Puranic, we have to understand all the, because we are advanced Vedantic students, we have to understand all the possible implications. From the Puranic point of view, it's an instrument of destruction, right? It can kill and come back. From the Vedantic point of view, who is the enemy? Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha, right? So it can destroy your Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha. The Shankha, What is the Shankha?
Conch.
The conch. The conch is symbolically representing the four Vedas, and the Gadha, the mace, the Gadha which is holding in his hand, it is for the destruction of Ahankara. So these are the Vedantic aspects of the Chakra, the Shankha, the Gadha, right? Now Gadha meaning the mace, okay, not the other Gadha. So Gadha is the mace. Now, if you look at the four-armed version of Lord Vishnu, which is sometimes you can see on photographs or in statues, where does the see one hand is chakra, one hand is gadha, one hand points towards the feet. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
What does it indicate?
Samarpan.
Samarpan. Pointing to
Sharagati.
the feet indicates that my grace is available to you only if you surrender to me. So only if you surrender to the Lord will the chakra come into activity for you, will the gadha come into activity for you, will the shankha come into activity for you. So your ahankara has to be destroyed with the gadha. Before that, the chakra has to get rid of your raga, dvesha, kama, krodha. And after these two activities are completed, the shankha comes into being, the jnanam is given. So that is the Veda, right? Okay. Now, Shankara in his commentary, he doesn't comment upon the Chaturbhuja at all. Okay, he takes it for granted that we are all enlightened souls. What is the point? He doesn't comment. But if you look at Gudahartha Deepika, Gudahartha Deepika is a commentary by whom?
Saraswati.
Madhusudana
Madhusudana
Saraswati.
Saraswati.
What is Madhusudana Saraswati's contribution to what we have studied?
The Gita Dhyanam.
Gita Dhyana.
Dhyana slokas. Okay. And if at all you get a chance to get this book, it's available on Amazon. Okay, Gujarat Deepika by, and I think there is a commentary also. I'll find out if I can and send you a copy. It's a very good book to have because there are a lot of comments which Madhusudana Saraswati makes, which are very enlightening. So here he writes, saying that Arjuna was seeing Krishna, but actually, whenever now he is seeing Krishna, he is seeing the four-handed version, which is Lord Vishnu. Okay. So the commentary here, which I mentioned earlier, that Arjuna saw Krishna as Lord Vishnu, comes from Gudahartha Deepika. And if you have noticed, I have referred to Madhusudana Saraswati's commentaries earlier also. Some of them are very, very incisive. So if anybody has the time and the energy, that book can be purchased. It's a nice book to have. Okay. Now, before going to the next verse, Shankara writes a commentary, right? So I'll give you the in Sanskrit version also. It's very nicely done. He says, Arjunam Bhitam Upalabhya. What happened? Arjuna was overcome with bhayam, with fear. And because of that, Upasamhritya Vishwarupam. So they have to supply Krishna over here. Krishna Vishwarupam Upasamhritya. Krishna withdrew the Vishwarupam, withdrew his Anekarupam. And as the two-armed or four-armed person, Priya Vachanena Ashvasayana. He consoles Arjuna with affectionate words. This is a very beautiful introduction to the next portion of the chapter, where you can see it is Krishna who is talking. So, what are these words for? These words are for consoling his friend. Krishna avatar is consoling his friend Arjuna. So, we will chant that. Verse number 47. Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri Bhaganuvacha.
Bhagavanuvāca.
Maya prasannena tavarjunedam
Maya
Maya
prasannena
prasannena
tavarjunedam
tavarjunedam
Rupam param darshitam atmayogat.
Rupam
Rupam param
param
darshitam
darshitam
Tejomayam vishwamanantamadhyam.
Tejomayam
Tejomayam
Vishwamanantamadhyam
Madhyam
Yanme tadanyena yanme tadanyena nadrishtapurvam.
Yanme
Yena
Nadrishta
Nadrishta
Purvam.
So here we have from the commentary that introductory commentary that Shankaracharya gave to this verse. What is it we have to extract? That even when Krishna was getting ready to show the Vishwarupa, to give Divachakshu to Arjuna, Krishna was aware that Arjuna was not ready for it. And therefore Krishna knew that this would be a temporary feature only, because you cannot give maturity of mind from outside. Sadhana Satushtayam cannot be given from outside. And even though he is the Lord, he is not able to hold that freedom from Ragadvesha for a very long time. So he knew that. He just wanted to give Arjuna the vision of what is happening. And then he knew that he will come back to his original form. So all this Krishna already knew, and therefore he gave the vision. That is the extraction we will do. So now he says, hey Arjuna, Krishna says, hey Arjuna, Tava idam rupam darshitam. I have shown you that Vishwarupam. And explaining why. Remember that he has come back now to his normal form. Okay, the two-armed form or the four-armed form, whichever one. He has come back to the normal form. And now he's saying that he's telling Arjuna how the whole thing happened. So he says, hey Arjuna, I have shown you this Vishwarupam of mine. How? Atma Yoga. Right? Atma here is a reflexive pronoun. Reflexive pronoun is a pronoun where the object of the verb will refer to the subject. I mean, I'm sure you know this. I'm just repeating it. The object of the verb refers to the subject. So when I say I myself, that is usage as a reflexive pronoun. So Atma here is reflexive pronoun referring to Krishna himself. Yoga here means Maya Shakti. Atma Yoga means because of my own Maya Shakti. So you have to add that. Hey Arjuna, Tava idam rupam darshitam. I have shown you this Vishwarupa Ishvara Atma Yoga because of the Maya Shakti which I have. And also, why did I show you Prasannena? Because I am happy with you. You are my friend and you are my devotee. Because you are pleased, because I am pleased with you, I have shown that. And what sort of form was it? Tejomayam. It's a very brilliant form. Why brilliant? Because it consists of one sun itself is so bright. So here you're talking about billions of stars, billions of galaxies, and therefore that Virat Ishvara form is a very, very bright form. And not only just bright, Anantam. It is limitless. It has no end. Both space-wise end is not there, time-wise end is not there. And then he says, hey Arjuna, Tvat Anyena. Other than you, nobody else has seen this form. Now one Purva Pakshi gets up and says, this cannot be true. It's not possible that nobody other than Arjuna saw this form. Why does he say that?
Sanjay, because Sanjay has seen it.
Sanjay also saw, because Sanjay is describing, right? And therefore this Todanyena is a figurative expression. We have to take it at that. We don't go into analysis. Now verse number 48, we'll chant. न वेद यज्ञादयैर्न दानैः न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः
न च
क्रियाभिर्नतपोभिरुग्रैः
एवं रूपं शक्यहं नृलोके
एवं रूपः
रूपः
शक्यहं
नृलोके
नृलोके
Drashtum tvadanyena kuru pravira.
Drashtam
Drashtum
Tadanyena kuru pravira.
So here Krishna is introducing a new sadhana, which is very obvious. It is bhakti, right? So what is this bhakti? Bhakti is the sincere desire to appreciate the Viratishvara, appreciate the Vishwarupam. So here we are talking about a bhakta only, therefore there is duality. And because he wants to show that bhakti is very important, he uses a prakriya, a methodology which is used very often in the Veda. It is called Nahi Ninda Nyaya, right? Instead of highlighting or praising one sadhana, this method, this prakriya consists of criticizing other sadhanas. So if you have 4 sadhanas and you want to highlight one, you criticize the other 3. And when this sort of a prakriya is used, we have to understand that we should not be focusing on the criticism, right? Our focus should not be on the sadhanas which are being criticized, even though that is being done. The focus should be on the sadhana which is being highlighted by way of not being criticized. Am I making sense?
फिर से बताएं
Yes.
फिर से बताएं
तो फिर से बताएं अच्छा ठीक है Supposing you have 4 sadhanas 1 2 3 4 and sadhana number 3 is very good sadhana which I want to highlight. So what I will do is I will not talk about sadhana 3. I will talk about sadhana 1 2 and 4 and say terrible sadhanas.
अच्छा
What you have to extract is, even though my words are criticizing 1 2 4, you should be focusing on the one which is not being criticized. It's like for
the
example,
political parties, Acharya.
sorry,
Like the political parties, they don't talk about them, they criticize the other one.
yes. Or you can think about, there are 4 students in class, and then somebody principal comes and says, "How are these guys?" So teacher says, "Student 1, 2, and 3 are you idiots."
oh
What is he saying?
4 is good
4 is a good student. That is the way you should extract. And this particular methodology is called Nahi Ninda Nyayaha.
नहीं
You are Nahi Ninda Nyayaha. Ninda is criticism, right? So the Nyaya where you are criticizing, but Nahi, you are not supposed to look at the criticized sadhana. You look at the non-criticized sadhana. Okay.
बस साइकोलॉजी में तो अगेंस्ट होता है
Okay. So now here what is Krishna doing? He is highlighting bhakti, and for that purpose he is criticizing other sadhanas. So he says Veda Adhyana, na Veda, na Yajna, na Adhyana, na Danaihi. No breakup. Okay. Na Veda Adhyana. Adhyana has to be added to Veda. So na Veda Adhyana. Veda Adhyana is not a great sadhana, he's saying.
Okay.
Why? Because of Veda Adhyana, you cannot get Vishwarupa. What actually these words mean, we'll see. He's saying, na Veda Adhyana, because if you do Veda Adhyana as a sadhana, you are not going to get Vishwarupa Darshanam. And na Yajna Adhyana. By studying the Yajna, you are not going to get Vishwarupa Darshanam. So when you say Yajna Adhyana, it means the study of the rituals, of the Yajnas, which is actually the knowledge of how to perform the rituals. When you say Veda Adhyana, it is learning to chant the Vedas without the meanings. So these 2 things you should understand here. Veda Adhyanam is chanting the Veda, just learning to chant. Meanings are not there. And Yajna Adhyana is just knowing how to perform the rituals. Right? Of course, using the mantras and all that, that is what is called, learning to perform. These will not give you Vishwarupa Darshana. So he's criticizing. He says these are all useless sadhanas. Na danaihi. Danam is also inferior sadhana. Remember that in different context, in maybe in verse number in chapter number 16, you will see a lot of praise of certain of these sadhanas, like Danam, for example. Right? Now, in this, there's a very interesting example that Shankaracharya gives in this particular when it comes to Danam. So Krishna is saying Danam is an inferior sadhana, and Shankara says he gives the example of Tula Purushadi Bihi. So I don't know what the word is in the North Indian temples, but in South Indian temples there is something called Tula Bharam. Have you heard of it? Tula Bharam. You take a
Yes.
large scale, a very large scale, and you sit on one scale.
अपने भजन की
The other scale is apni vajan se karna. The other scale is filled with your offering. So you're offering your own weight in whatever you're offering. So because one side of the scale you are sitting on. The other side can be bananas, it can be gold, it can be silver, it can be anything, right? So your own weight is being offered. It's called Tula Bharam. So Shankara says Tula Bharam is not going to get you Vishwarupa Darshanam. And then Nacha Kriya Bihi. So your other rituals cannot help you in getting Vishwarupa Darshanam. Now, if you look at the words, there are two words used, Yajna and Kriya. Why two words? Both are actions. So whenever this is done, you must look at the context. Yajna means yajna arises, the ritual arises out of Veda, right? So yajna can be taken as Shastriya karma, karma mandated by Shastram. And Kriya can be taken as local karma, non-Shastric karma, right? So any other karma which you do, not mandated by Shastram, can be taken as Kriya. Then, na ugraihi tapobihi. Ugrai means terrible or severe. Tapobihi, tapas is austerity. Vishwarupa Darshanam cannot be got through very severe austerity. Oh, fasting, or standing on one leg in the Ganga in the middle of the winter, all these things, right? And Shankara gives an example of Chandrayana as an example of severe tapas. So I don't know if everybody knows, so I'll just briefly tell you what Chandrayana is. So you start this particular tapas on Purnima. Purnima is what date?
15
No, full moon
Full
date.
moon.
Okay. Yes,
Full
that's
moon.
good. Purnima
Full
means full
moon.
moon date, right? So on full moon date, what you do is you eat your normal quantity of food. Okay. And of course, japa also has to be there because basically it's a tapas, right? So you're doing japa also, and you're eating a normal quantity of food. On the next day, you reduce the quantity of food by 1 by 15. 1/15th of the amount you reduce.
15 days.
And every day you keep on reducing 1/15. So second day you're eating, you're eating the whole amount minus 2 by 15. Third day, whole amount minus 3 by 15. And so on. Until the 15th day, you eat nothing. It's a total fasting. What is the 15th day called? Amavasya. Or in English, it's called new moon. I've never understood why, okay, because new moon means no moon. But anyway, so on new moon, you don't eat anything. So it's not over as it, okay? 15 days are over. Then next day, after Amavasya, you eat 1/15th of the total quantity. Earlier on, you were reducing by 1/15. Now you are starting with 1/15. Because you have come to zero food, you eat 1/15th the normal quantity and increase every day until on the next Purnima day, you are back to your normal quantity. So it's a 1 month fasting. And fasting plus japa. And Shankara says this is an example of severe tapas. And what does he say? Evam rupam na drashti. Even if you do this, you cannot see Vishwarupa, Ishvara. Therefore, this Virat form, tvad anyena, nobody but people like you who are full of bhakti can see this form. Hey Kuru Pravira, O bravest among the Kauravas. He calls him a Kaurava. Where did he, which is indication of what?
The part of the larger family.
He will win.
Can we say that?
He's
Or
the
he
best.
will conquer all of them?
You remember the first verse? Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta
Samaveta
Yudhsavaha
Yuyutsavaha.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva.
Mm.
My people and the Pandavas, what are they doing? That is what Dhritarashtra said. There is a
Mm.
reference there. That itself was a big mistake. Hey Kaurava, you are not different from them. So it's a reference to Dhritarashtra's error. Dhritarashtra's error. Anyway, let's look at 49 now. Number. Verse number 49. We will chant. Mate vyatha ma cha vimudha bhavaha.
Mate
Mate vyatha cha vimudha bhavaha.
Bhavaha.
Drishtva rupam ghoramidrangamayedam.
Drishtva
Rupam
ghoramidmedam.
ghormidam
Vyapeta bhih pritamana punastvam.
vyapetavhi
Pritamanapnastvam.
Tadeva me rupamidam prapasya.
tadeva me rupamidam prapashya.
Dam prapashya.
Okay. So, Krishna has withdrawn the Vishwarupa Ishwaram form, which is from that you would extract something else also. The Arjuna is not ready for Vishwarupa Darshanam. Therefore, Krishna doesn't want to impose upon him. And that is pointing out a very important part of our tradition, that teach each seeker only according to his level. Do not ever impose anything upon a seeker, because it will be of absolutely no use to him. So teach him only as much as he is capable of learning. For example, there are many people, and I have come across a few. You say, you want moksha? He said, of course not. Who wants moksha? Why? Because they're afraid. Moksha means what? The RC will be gone. And I appreciate myself only as Jiva. So moksha is total, elimination of myself. So I'm afraid. Right? Even appreciating the value of moksha requires a tremendous amount of mental maturity. Sadhana chatushtayam is necessary. And therefore, that is why Veda keeps on saying, the majority of your work consists of karma yoga, upasana yoga, and then only you can come to Shravanam. You work for artha, you work for kama, right? You have to follow both these. Karma kanda is necessary. And whatever you get in karma kanda, you take as Ishvara Prasada. So the destination is clearly mentioned in Karmakanda itself, even though the Adhikari for Karmakanda is different from the Adhikari for Jnanakanda, the destination is indicated there, right? So here Krishna says, Mate Vyatha. Vyatha means anguished or frightened. Mate Vyatha. Do not be frightened, hey Arjuna. Why frightened? Because you have seen people being crushed in my mouth. And why are you frightened? Because you have not understood, hey Arjuna. So we have to understand from here that you don't ask whether Vishwarupa Ishvara is wonderful or terrible. Right? You don't ask whether Ishvara is pleasant or horrible. Vishwarupam is a mixture of both. Right? Because in this Jagat, there is Samashti Punyam, there is Samashti Papam also. The universal Punyam is there, universal Papam is there. The consequences have to be delivered. So when there is universal papam, you will find terrible things happen. Children die, and bombs are falling, innocent people die, you will find terrible things happening. And you will also find wonderful things happening. So when you label something terrible and wonderful, remember that if I am labeling some event in the world as wonderful and terrible, it is my raga dvesha which is operating. Because what I don't like, I label terrible. What I love, I label wonderful. And therefore, when I see these bad things happening, when I see these good things happening, I should know how to handle. When I see terrible things happening, I should tell myself, yes, this is happening. It's a consequence of prarabdha only, universal prarabdha. And therefore, I should not develop hatred towards the world or the people. The world does not deserve hatred because wonderful things don't happen. Because terrible things happen, you should not hate the world. At the same time, when wonderful things happen, you need not love the world. Don't have attachment towards the world. Remember, the world is full of duality only, dvandaha. It has good, it has bad. It will always has had good. It always has had bad. It will always be like this. That cannot change. And therefore he says, get that clarity, hey Arjuna. Ma vimuda bhavaha. Don't have this confusion at all. Right? Therefore, drishtva idam idrak ghoram rupam. So you break up that sentence. Drishtva idam idrak ghoram rupam. Idam. Drishtva idam. Having seen this, idrak means this type of. Okay. So the drishtva idam idrak ghoram rupam. Having seen this type of frightening form of mind, hey Arjuna, Vyape, Vyapetabihi, may you be without any fright, may you be without any fear. And therefore, what am I doing? Tvam prapashya, you will now see punaha idam tadeva rupam. You will see this same Krishna form of mind. So with that, you have to imagine that Krishna is now back in his form, in his two-armed form, four-armed form, whichever you want to see. Okay. So Arjuna is happy to see Krishna's form, and Krishna has changed his form, so he has nothing more to say. So Sanjay says, so verse number 50, Sanjaya Uvacha
Sanjaya Uvacha
Jaya Uvacha
Arjunam Vasudevastathoktva
Ityarjunam
Arjunam
Vasudevastathoktva
Vasudevastathoktva
Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuyaha
Sakam
Swakam
rupam
Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuyaha
Ashvasayamasa cha bhitamenam
Ashvasayamasa cha Pītamenam
Utva punah saumya vapur mahatma
Bhutva
Puनः
Samya
Mahatma.
So Sanjay Uvacha, Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, Vasudevaha Arjunam iti uktva. Okay. Now, Vasudeva spoke to Arjuna in this manner. And who is this Vasudeva? Swakam Rupam. Okay. Now there can be confusion. This own form of Vasudeva. What form is it? Is it Viratishvara? Is it, formless Ishvara? Is it Nirguna Brahman? Is it Saguna Brahman? Because everything is his own form, right? When you say the Lord, every form is his Lord own form. And therefore, what is this Swakam Rupam? What is this own form? And Shankaracharya doesn't want us to imagine things. So Shankaracharya writes in the commentary, Vasudevasya grihe jatam rupam. Can you understand?
Yeah.
Vasudevasya in Vasudeva's
one
house.
is
Jatam rupam, that form which was born in the house of Vasudeva. Which is who? Which is Krishna, human form, the avatar's form. Right? So Arjuna says Krishna has come back to the human form, the avatar form. Which form was the form which Krishna was born in Vasudeva's house? And Bhuyaha Darshayamasaha, he showed once again. And Ashvasayamasa Bhitam Enam, Arjuna's fear has not totally gone, right? Because the moment the tiger goes away, your fear doesn't disappear. Your fear continues for some time. So Arjuna's fear still is there. So Krishna is consoling him. Bhutva Saumya Vapuhu. That Ghoram Rupam, that terrible form, Saumya Rupam. Vapuhu is body or form. Saumya Vapuhu. That pleasing form, Krishna has replaced that Vishwarupa. Again, we have to very carefully understand what is meant by withdrawal of Vishwarupa. Okay. Remember that if Vishwarupam disappears, what will happen? Sorry?
World will be gone.
World will disappear. And therefore, the removal of the Vishwarupam cannot be equated with disappearance of the Vishwarupam. The world cannot disappear because Vishwarupa Ishvara is the universe. Where is the question of the arrival of Vishwarupa Ishvara? There is no question of arrival or departure excepting during Pralayam. During Pralayam, yes, the Vishwarupa Ishvara's form disappears, manifest form disappears. So we should know that it means that Krishna withdrew the Divya Chakshu. The temporary grant of the removal of Raga Dvesha, which was Divya Chakshu, that has been reversed. And therefore Arjuna is back to his Ahankara Mamakara. Aham Mama is back. Right? So what is the effect of Aham Mama on your vision? You have to understand. You know, what is the effect? So let us say that you have a child whom you are very fond of, your daughter or your son, and they are taking part in a school performance. Okay, a play in the school. So when you go there to see the play, what happens?
You are focused on your
You
child.
are focused on your kid only, and what is the problem? The totality of the performance is missed. Okay. Or I'll give you another example, which is more down to earth. You go to the beach, right? Now you're wearing nice clothes, and you got your wife and kid, or husband and kid with you, and therefore you start taking a selfie because you want to put it up on Instagram, right? You start taking a selfie, and you're so engrossed in the selfies. What happens? You miss the setting sun. You miss the beauty of the waves. This is the effect of Ahankara Mamakara. Now, you focus only on yourself. Nothing else is there. Right? And if you're taking a selfie on the edge of a building, that absorption with yourself can have disastrous consequences because nature does not forgive mistakes. Okay. So we go to verse number 51. Arjuna starts again. Arjuna Ovacha.
Arjuna
Uvacha
दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपम्
दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपम्
तव सौम्यं जनार्दन
तव सौम्यं जनार्दन
इदानीम् अस्मि संवृत्तः
इदानीमस्मि संवृत्तः
सचेताः प्रकृतिं गतः
सचेतः प्रकृतिं गतः.
So Shankara remembers suddenly that I have not told you what Janardana means after 11 chapters. So he writes, Dushta Janan Ardhayati iti Janardana. Ardhayati means punishes. Dushta Janan Ardhayati, the one who punishes the evil people, Dushta people, iti Janardana. It is the meaning of Janardana. Okay. Idanim Asmi samvrittaha. I have now come back to my normal state of mind, and therefore is sachetaha. Very nice word. Cheta is the mind. Sachetaha, I have got back my mind. Okay, earlier on I was mindless because I was so frightened. The mind didn't belong to me. And prakritim gataha. Prakriti here is natural self. So I have come back to my natural self. I have become normal. My mind is at peace because I am seeing Ekarupa Ishvara. Shankar, so he says, fine. I am okay now, Hey Krishna. I am back to my normal self. Fright and all is gone. Okay. Then we look at verse number 52. Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri
Bhagavanuvacha
Bhagavanuvacha
Sudurdarshamidam Rupam
Sudardarshamidam Rupam
Drashtavanasi Yanmama
Drishtavanasi Yanmama
Eva Apyasya Rupyasya
Deva
Deva
Apyasya Rupasya
Apyasya
Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha.
Nityam
Kanshina
Darshanakangshinaha.
Krishna says, hey Arjuna, you are not very qualified, and yet I have shown you the form. So if you are thinking that you are qualified, get that thought out of your head. You have seen this form not because you deserve it. You have seen this form because of your surrender, and because of your surrender to me, and because of my grace, I gave you this darshanam, which is Sudarshanam. That is Sudur Sudurdarsham. Durdarsham is what? Difficult to get. So this is very, very difficult to get. Why has Arjuna got the... And he says that this particular vision, even the gods don't get. Right? So idam rupam mama, this form of mine, yad drishtavanasi, which you have seen, sudurdarsham. It is, durdarsham is difficult to see. Sudurdarsham is very, very difficult to see. And what kind of darshanam is it? Devaha api, even the lords, nityam darshana kangshanaha. Even the lords have always desiring to see this vision of mine, asya rupasya, of this form of mine. So he's saying, hey Arjuna, this vision of mine you have seen, but don't think it is because of the fact that you are qualified, that you have got your mind under control. You have seen it solely because of my grace, because of the fact that you are my friend.
Acharya, can I just ask a quick question, please?
Yes, please.
In the previous shloka, Arjuna actually says, Idam Manusham Rupam. So it's a human form. But at the same time, he's talking about Chaturbhuja Rupa Vishnu.
Yes. So that is what I said earlier. Commentators say that you can attribute either to confusion, or you can say that having understood that Krishna is actually Lord Vishnu, Arjuna is imagining the four hands and the gada and the mace and all that when he sees his friend Krishna Avatara.
He's calling it as Manushi Rupa.
He's calling it as Manusha Rupa.
Thank you.
Okay, now we look at verse number 53. Naham Vedairna Tapasa
Aham Vedairna Tapasa
Nadane Chejyaya
Danena Chetyaya
Shakyam Evam Vido Drashtum
Shakyam Vido
Evam vido drashtum
Drishtavanasi Mam Yatha.
Drishtavanasi Mam
Drishtvanasi mam
Yatha.
yatha.
So basically, this is only a repetition of the earlier verses, and generally, repetition is considered as punarukti dosham, a defect of repetition. But here, because the next two verses are very, very important, we don't look upon this particular verse as Punarukti dosham. And of course, because Krishna is talking about it, we can never attribute Punarukti dosham to the Lord. So here Krishna is talking about the means of getting Vishwarupa Darshana. And he says, Bhakti is a very sincere desire. Bhakti is the only sadhana. And no other sadhana can get you this. This is already said earlier. We saw Nahininda Nyayaha. He is saying it again. Vedaihi evam vidaha aham drashtum na shakyaha. Vedaihi evam vidaha. Even if you are a great Vedic scholar, aham drashtum na shakyaha. This Vishwarupa darshanam you cannot get. Na tapasa. Even if you have practiced intense tapas, you will not get. Na danena. Even with lots of charity, you will not get. Na cha ijyaya. Ijyaya means yajñas. Even with yajñas, you will not get. All these, he has said earlier also. We are saying that we are not saying the sadhanas are not important. We are just saying that here he is running them down because he is trying to tell you that bhakti is the only way. So, nacha ijjaya, with all these sadhanas, drishtvan mam asi yatha. Drishtvan asi mam yatha. You can never get to see the Vishwarupa darshanam. Drishtvan asi mam yatha, as you have seen me. Right? The point is, you have seen me because of my grace, because of your bhakti, but you will not be able to get this even if you do all these sadhanas. This verse is a repetition of verse number 48. You should remember. Okay.
Acharya
Now,
ji,
yes.
does it mean that these are external sadhanas? I mean, it's not within yourself.
No,
Bhakti
it simply
is
means these are sadhanas which are going to get you sadhana chatushtayam. Without sadhana chatushtayam, bhakti cannot be there.
okay.
So verse number 54. Bhaktya tvananya shakyaha.
या त्वनन्यया शक्यः
Ahamevam vidorjuna.
एवं विधोर्न
Yatum drashtum cha tatvena.
ज्ञातुं द्रष्टुं च तत्त्वेन
Praveshtum cha parantapa.
प्रवेष्टुं च परन्तप.
So if through all these sadhanas you cannot see Vishwarupeshwara, then Shankara says, Katham punaha shakyaha iti uchyate. How then is it possible? Iti uchyate. This is now being said in these two verses. And that is why it is so important. How to get this darshanam is being said. So he says, Hey Arjuna, Ananya bhaktya aham shakyam drushtum. By Ananya bhakti. See, Anya means others. Ananya means without any others, undivided. So Ananya Bhaktya, with undivided bhakti in which no other is present, Aham Drashtum Shakyaha, you can see me, Evam Vidaha, in this form, and not only that, Gyatum Cha Tatvena, and really understanding this form, Tatvena, the truth of this form, Gyatum, understanding, Praveshtum, we will merge into that form, He Parantapa. So, very nice word. By truly understanding that form, only you can merge, right? You can have moksha only by understanding. For that understanding, you need bhakti. What kind of bhakti? Ananya bhakti. Not ordinary bhakti, Ananya bhakti. So, what is Ananya bhakti? Shankaracharya says, the Ananya bhakti is the understanding that there is nothing here other than Bhagavan. Bhagavataha anyatraha pritak na kadachit api. Apart from the Lord, there is nothing here at all. That understanding. There is nothing other than Bhagavan. That understanding is Ananya Bhakti. So you have to recall your 7th chapter. There were 4 levels of Bhakti. What are they? Artha Bhakti, Artharthi Bhakti, Jignasu Bhakti,
Jnana
and
Artha
Jnani Bhakti. Jnani Bhakti, right? The Artha and Artharthi basically you can club into one level. So if you want to reduce that 4 levels, you can make it 3 levels. Artha and Artharthi is one level. Jignasu is another level. Jnani is the third and final level, right? So one person can practice Sakama Bhakti for some time. What happens? The mind gets purer and purer and purer. And he begins to understand, right? First, Ishvara is the means to the end. Then he begins to understand that it is better to have Ishvara as the end than as the means. When he understands that, he has become mature enough to understand that everything in this world has got 3 defects. Dukkha Mishritatvam, Atriptikaratvam, Bandhakatvam. Okay, so these I'm not explaining. For all advanced students, you should all know. So when you come here, you understand that Ishvara is the only reliable entity free from these 3 doshas, free from these 3 defects. And this is called Nitya Anitya Vivekaha, where Jagat is Anityam, Ishvara alone is Nityam and therefore reliable. So once this understanding comes to me, the world becomes the means for all the activities. So even Grahastha Ashrama becomes a tool towards what? Everything that you do becomes a means for achieving the end, which is called Ishvara. So in Puranic language, we call an entity Ishvara. In Vedantic language, we call it Brahman. Religious language Ishvara. In Vedanta, it is called Brahman. Bhagavan is Brahman is Karan, Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. You have to again recall chapter 7. Anything changing is apara or para? Apara. That which does not change is Paraprakriti. The whole universe is nothing other than Bhagavan. The one who has understood this is the Jignasu Bhakti, Bhaktaha of that 7th chapter. Here it is called Ananya Bhakti. Remember, we are not talking about Jnani Bhakti. Because if it is Jnani, then Vishwarupa Darshanam is not there at all. So Ananya Bhakti, I see everything as the Lord. There is I and there is the Lord. Right? Which means what? I should be incapable of dvesha to anybody or anyone else. It doesn't mean that, if you see a tiger, you go and kiss him. You don't hate the tiger. Keep a safe distance. Remember that just as you are para apara, the tiger is also para apara. And what is the result of this vision? Tatvena drashtum. You have understood the truth of Vishwarupa Ishvara. You will get Advaita Jnanam and Praveshtum. From that Vishwarupa Ishvara, you will merge. You will move into Arupa Ishvara. Through this knowledge, the devotee merges into the Lord. Right? He becomes a Jnani. He becomes a Moksha Purushaha. Okay, we have a last verse which we will just take if you don't mind. Just 2-3 minutes more. Mat karma krin mat paramaha.
Mat karma kran mat paramaha.
Bhakta sangha varjitaha.
Bhakta sangha varjitaha.
Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu.
Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu.
Yasamameti pandava.
Yasamameti Pandava.
Iti Srimad Bhagavad Geeta Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre.
Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre.
Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vishwarupa Darshana Yogo Nama Ekadashodhyayah.
Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vishwarupa Darshana Yogo Nama Ekadashodhyayah.
So in this introduction to this verse, Shankaracharya says that adhuna, now, the essence of the entire Gita Shastram, Sarvasya Gita Shastrasya Sarabhutaha, the essence of the whole Gita Shastram is summarized in this one verse. Okay, so you can imagine the importance of this verse. The entire Gita Shastram is being summarized in this one verse for two purposes, for the purpose of liberation and for the purpose of practice. Okay, so very beautifully he has put it. This is the verse. The entire teaching here is summarized in a nutshell. It doesn't matter whether you're a sannyasi, it doesn't matter whether you're a grahastha, it doesn't matter which lifestyle you are in, either only knowledge or knowledge plus karma yoga. So bhakti is being presented here not as a particular sadhana. Bhakti is being presented as a whole range of sadhanas, right? Karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga, everything is bhakti itself. So the first set of sadhanas is karma lakshana bhakti. Bhakti in the form of karma yoga. Karma yoga also is bhakti. Why? Because there is the Lord involved. If there is no Lord, it is just karma. It is not karma yoga. And karma yoga involves two stages. In the first stage, I am a karta doing various actions. In the second stage, I am a bhokta receiving the karma phalam from my various actions. As karta, what do? I dedicate all my actions, Ishvara, Arpana, Bhavana. As bhokta, what do? I accept all the karma phalam gratefully without resistance, Ishvara, Prasada, Bhavana. And because of this dual aspect of Ishvara Arpana Bhavana and Ishvara Prasada Bhavana, Karma Yoga becomes a form of bhakti. That's the first step. Then Upasana Lakshana Bhakti. Bhakti in the form of Dhyanam, form of meditation. This is required because a Karma Yogi's mind is extroverted. All the time he's Karta Bhakta. He's interacting with the world all his time. And therefore he's extroverted. But as a Vedantic seeker, he has to discover the Lord inside. Therefore, he needs a introverted mind. Therefore, one has to convert the extroverted mind into a introverted mind, into a non-extroverted mind. This second level of sadhana, where I visualize the Lord within myself, it requires a introverted mind. Therefore, I train the mind. Ekarupa Ishvara is there, Anekarupa Ishvara is there. But the main idea is Upasana involves training the mind to look inwards. And therefore, since there also the Lord is involved, it is Upasana Lakshana Bhakti. And then there is Bhakti in the form of Jnanam, Jnana Lakshana Bhakti, which is a study of scriptures to discover the real nature of the Lord, which is called Jnana Vicharaha or Vedanta Vicharaha. That is also Bhakti. In fact, those who have listened to any Chinmayananda classes, he used to call the Gita classes by what name, Gita Jnana Yajna. It was a Jnana Yajna only for him. And therefore Krishna says over here, Mat Karma Krit Bhavaha. First become a Karma Yogi. So Mat Karma means Madhartham Karma, Karma done for me. Right? So that is what we always say. There is a sankalpa which you take. Yat yat karma karoti tat tat akhilam samshambho tavaradhanam. Like whatever work, karma I do, hey Shambho, O Shiva, I am devoting to you only. What is meant by this dedication of karma to Ishvara? It's a simple mental action, sankalpaha. You simply say, Oh Lord, I am dedicating this to you. That is what it means. Yat yat karma karoti, whatever I am doing, O Lord, tat tat akhilam Shambho tava aradhanam. I am doing it as offering to you. And so Krishna says, you should not fall under the influence of Ragadvesha. Now remember that where Ragadvesha is aligned to Dharma, there is no problem. The problem begins when Ragadvesha is not aligned to Dharma. And that happens because you have a free will. When you have a free will, you have the choice to go against the Ishvara's moral order. When you go against Ishvara's moral order, this is where conflict begins. So, mat karma krit bhavaha, doing karma for Ishvara's sake, for the sake of the moral order. in conformity with the moral order, not going by my raga dvesha. Right? So as a karma yogi, I have to adjust my behavior to be aligned with dharma. This is called mat karma krit bhavaha. I am the karma yogi who has aligned my actions with dharma. After that, mad bhakta bhavaha, may you become my devotee, which is what from worldly desires, you fulfill the worldly desires. But understand their limitations. Gradually convert your goal from artha kama to dharma moksha. Right? The world dependence to God dependence to self dependence. Then mat parama bhavaha. The person for whom Ishvara is the only goal is the param bhava, the param destination is called mat paramaha. In other words, he is a very tivra mumukshu, a, a mumukshu, a seeker who has only one intense goal. Ishvara has become the most important in his life. And for that, sangha varjitaha, free yourself from attachment to worldly things. Right? And Shankaracharya mentions what kind of worldly things: dhanaha, putraha, mitraha, kalatraha, bandhuhu. Dhanaha is wealth, putraha is kids, son, mitraha is friends, kalatraha is wife, bandhu relatives. You should free yourself from excessive attachment to all these things. Remember, it doesn't mean Jnani has no love and affection. Jnani has love and affection for all these. He will love his son, he will love his kids, he will love his friends, he will love his wife and his relatives, but he is not dependent on them for his well-being. Whether they give him affection or not, it doesn't matter. He will give affection freely because he is completely confident of himself. He is completely fulfilled. He can easily give affection, but he doesn't need it from them. And then nirvaira sarvabhuteshu, freedom from raga. Freedom from raga doesn't mean hatred. Okay, he does not view anybody as an enemy. So Shankara adds here, he does not view anybody as an enemy, even if that person desires to do him bodily harm. He will protect himself, but he will not hate him. Right? So one learning from here is you might find a lot of people who are doing things which are not good for me, even though they may have good intentions. But either way, the feelings, my feelings can be affected. But if I always remember, Prakritim Yanti Bhutani, what does it mean? Each person behaves according to the pressures, the dictates of his own mind. They are being driven by their past vasanas. And I have to understand that they are helpless against that drive. If I had the same past, probably I would behave the same way. So what is to be done? You don't hate the person. You just keep away. Make sure he doesn't harm you at all. So this nadvesha sarva bhuteshu, with regard to every human being, every animal, every plant, freedom from dvesha, freedom from enmity. This raga dvesha atitatvam, the going beyond raga and dvesha, that is called emotional maturity, otherwise known as vairagyam. And if you have got all these things, samameti Pandava, such a person will definitely attain me. So this is what he says. Shankara says this is the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. What is the summary? Jnanena mokshaha. In this verse, where is Jnanam mentioned? Shankara comments saying that Mad Bhaktiha. Bhakta here has to be taken as Jnani Bhaktaha, the person who has understood. Okay. There is another interpretation also, which is given by Anandagiri, sub-commentator. He says this verse can be taken as, not talking about Nirguna Jnana. Why? Because the entire chapter context is what? Saguna Ishvara, Vishwarupa Ishvara. Therefore, Anandagiri says here you take this upasana as meaning Krama Mukti. Mukti, yes, but Krama Mukti. So Anandagiri takes Mad Bhaktaha as a Vishwarupa Ishvara. Shankara takes Mad Bhaktaha as a Nirguna Brahma Bhakta. So with this, the 11th chapter is over. Any questions we can ask?
Acharya Krama Mukta, what does it mean? I've forgotten.
No. You have to go to chapter number 8.
Okay.
What does it say? That if you are a Saguna Ishvara Upasaka who has not managed to come to Jnanam, then the punyam generated by that upasana of yours, it can take you to Brahma. It will take you to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, you have two choices, two paths. One is if you've got sufficient punyam, you will go to Lord Brahmaji and he will give you Vedanta lessons and you will be liberated. That liberation is called Krama Mukti, sequential Mukti. And if you have not got enough punyam, then you won't take the Vedanta classes. You'll enjoy yourself in Brahmaloka and be reborn again.
Thank you.
Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Tat Sat.
Om
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you.